Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Rian Johnson says he's proud of The Last Jedi. Well, you know what? I just drew a matchstick man and I'm also very proud of him. Look at this. Look at this, everyone. I am so proud of this work of fucking art. No, I'm not. It's shit. And so is The Last Jedi. But saying it's shit isn't good enough because it's deeper than that. It's shit that's supposed to be shit. It's a mockery on Star Wars. It's a political extremist one-upmanship. He took an icon like Luke Skywalker, and because he's an extremist and he hates straight white males, he decided to take Luke Skywalker and make him a bitter and twisted old man because that's how he sees straight white males. Now, the irony, even though he is an extremist, he's also a white male. I'm not sure about the first bit, but he's definitely a white male. We can see he's a white male. So is he different? Is he different to the rest of us? So if he calls out other white men, does that make him better than other white men? That's if you believe all straight white males are bad. So this is what he did. He said, right, here's Luke Skywalker, the ultimate white male, and we're going to knock him down a peg or two. He's going to drink blue breast milk. He's going to grow a long, ugly beard, and he's going to be bitter, and he's going to talk about destroying the Jedi. Oh, and in the end, he's going to come in as an illusion and not actually fight the villain properly. Wow. This is what Rian Johnson is proud of. But how is Rian Johnson afforded the luxury of saying a piece of shit, the worst Star Wars motion picture ever made? How has he been afforded the luxury to say he's proud of it and that he wants to make more? Well, let me give you an analogy, a comparison. Everyone in Hollywood is a bit like the made man in the mafia. So in the Italian mafia, they have this term, being made. You can only be made if you're Italian and you've been part of the mafia for a very long time. And that's what Hollywood is. You have to have that special DNA or you don't get made to be an elite in Hollywood. That's how it works. It's not their talent that gets them there. It's their DNA. It's their blood work. It's their connections. And anyone on the outside isn't afforded the same luxuries. Now and again, someone so talented who can make them lots of money may get into the cracks. But mostly, unless you share their DNA, unless you're their brother, unless you've laid on the casting couch right, unless you've got the same DNA as them and got their connections, you're not going to get into Hollywood. This is how it works, everyone. This is a corrupt system. Most of the people whose names are on the Hollywood Walk of Fame or shoe print or whatever they fucking do, right, have probably harassed or done something illegal in their time. We know these are not very nice people, but these people have taken it upon themselves to say their male customers are bad people and they are superior. They may be white men, but they're allowed to say that other white men are bad. The whole kind of mindset of the extreme left is to focus on the past, because why would you do that anyway? Why would you focus on the past when you can't change it? Isn't it better to affect the future so all the bad stuff that happened in the past doesn't happen again? What's the point of knocking down a statue? What does that change? They'll say it's what it represents. I'm not against knocking down, something that represents, cruelty and stuff like that. What I'm saying is you need to affect the future. But the extreme left are not the solution. Neither are the extreme right, by the way. I'm not really a strong political person. I would call myself moderate left. I would say the good old days when there was the moderate left and the moderate right. The moderate right are kind of king, country, army, military. Their belief is if you see someone on the floor and they want a hand up, you step over them and let them do it themselves. And the moderate left was always giving someone a hand up, giving someone a helping hand. That's always been the differences. Why am I talking politics? Because Hollywood has become utterly corrupt and full of extremism. And the extremism is from the alt-left wing. They hate straight males, the alt-right hate everybody else. This is where we are. The Last Jedi was the birthplace of the fandom menace. It was round the era of Donald Trump as well, someone I'm not a supporter of. So the fandom menace, I'm not part of them. I don't agree with their politics, but in terms of what they say mostly about entertainment, yeah. Let's look at the YouTuber Nerd Roddick. Very interesting guy, by the way. Now, I don't agree with his politics, but the execution of his videos are brilliant. His takedowns of Hollywood are brilliant. I applaud what he's doing with the Rings of Power right now. It's brilliant. This is just a guy who had a comic book shop. So I give my respect to ordinary working class people who come from nothing and do this. He runs a very successful YouTube channel, whatever you think of him. But that was the 2016, 2017 was the birthplace of the fandom menace. And they are really striking a blow to the Hollywood elite. And every time you criticize the Hollywood elite for their creative bankruptcy, they'll call you an ist and an ism. You're a racist, you're a homophobe, because that's all they're interested in. Identity politics. No one hates representation of the LGBTQ plus community in entertainment or minorities. But here's another thing for you, just in case you don't know. All those minorities you see in Hollywood are actually minorities with Hollywood DNA. So all those people of color that look like, you know, they're representing the black community, they're not. They're representing the black community with Hollywood DNA, if you know what I mean. Not one of those people is an average African American. If you tried to walk through the gates of Hollywood and you were talented and you could act and you were inspired by Denzel or someone like that, who probably also has Hollywood DNA, let's be fucking clear about this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even let him through the fucking gates. There's probably someone doing a DNA test before you walk into those gates. So there is no representation, there is no inclusion in Hollywood unless that special DNA is in your system. So let's be clear, there's no proper representation. Now, the new Doctor Who is a gentleman of colour, but what's the betting that he also has entertainment DNA, fake, false representation. But let's go back to Star Wars, because we're going to read the article where Rian Johnson's being interviewed a little bit later on. But I'm setting the foreground because that's important. So let's look at The Force Awakens. I actually think The Force Awakens is an okay movie. I don't think it's the best Star Wars film ever. When that film was being made, so I'm going to defend them a little bit here. When that film was being made, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people hated George Lucas and hated what he did with the prequels. Now, I've always been a lover of the prequels. Now, The Last Jedi has made people more appreciative of George's prequels, which I think are genius. They're his story. It makes sense. I mean, look, there's certain nitpicks you can have of those prequels. Of course you can. But the reason they kind of ripped off A New Hope is because not everyone, again, I'll say that a lot of people hated the prequels, didn't want George Lucas involved. This is why they didn't allow him to do his own sequel trilogy when Disney bought Lucasfilm. But so they decided just to do something easy, something connected to the most popular elements of Star Wars. So that's why The Force Awakens happens. So they cast Daisy Ridley and John Boyega. And, you know, we saw the casting and some people kind of took issue with John being a black man playing a stormtrooper. All of a sudden, the media accused everyone of being a racist. Now, I didn't have an issue with this, but I didn't think about Attack of the Clones, because in Attack of the Clones, we found out that the stormtroopers are actually clones of one bounty hunter called Jango Fett. So basically, surely that means, and if I'm wrong, please comment down below, but every stormtrooper must look like Jango Fett. So how the hell is John Boyega, aka Finn, a stormtrooper? But let's suspend disbelief, because John Boyega was in Attack the Block. He's a very good British actor. By the way, if we're talking about the consumer being ists and isms. Let's talk about Samuel L. Jackson, who wasn't very impressed with John Boyega's casting. Now, if you don't know who Samuel L. Jackson is, he's a gentleman of colour, but he was very upset that John was an outsider. He was a British actor and shouldn't be allowed in the gates of Hollywood. He was very upset about this. See what I mean? So these are the people calling out racism when they're the ones saying, unless you've got the same DNA as us, right, you shouldn't be getting a role. That's what Samuel L. Jackson basically said about a fellow black man. Think about that for a minute. This is what we are talking about here. So The Force Awakens is a neat movie. And whether you like it or not, basically Abrams is developing a romance between Rey and Finn. I personally think that John and Daisy were extraordinarily brilliant. Maybe that'll get me hate, but I think they were brilliant in the first movie and had bags of chemistry, and that should have been the new love story, right? Unless you want to say they're brother and sister, which is a bit unlikely, right? But it could work, I suppose, right? You know, mixed race relationships and all of that. But anyway, they had great chemistry. So what did Rian Johnson come in? First of all, right, let's talk about this before we get into what he did with The Last Jedi. And so Kathleen Kennedy said, yeah, Rian, come in. You can do a Star Wars sequel. Yeah, but Kathy, you know, I don't like that first film. I just want to get away from that first film. So she goes, yeah, that's fine. Forget about that first movie. I mean, it's only a fucking sequel, Rian. It only has to fucking continue, but you do whatever you want. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that Rian Johnson is totally incompetent and is totally creatively bankrupt. Obviously, he's done some good things. He's moderately talented. So what if Kennedy was so obsessed with this guy and thought, you know, this is the new Francis Ford Coppola, which he's fucking not, by the way, but if that's how she felt, she should have said, all right, Rian, have a Star Wars story. They were doing this, you know, the individual standalone Star Wars stories. Perfect for someone like Johnson. I know, Rian, don't do this sequel because you're not right for it, because you want to go a different direction. Here's your own trilogy. She didn't do that. Why didn't she do that? Instead, she let this guy do a sequel and let him move away from everything that Abrams was doing. And here's another question. Why didn't Abrams write and direct the fucking sequel? Was it his choice, because he's got his fingers in so many pies? Or was it their choice? It never made sense. Now, people have tried to defend this decision saying, well, you know, George Lucas never directed Empire Strikes Back and Jedi. No, but he wrote the fucking story. It was still his fucking vision. Nothing about The Last Jedi has anything to do with J.J. Abrams, and we all know that. So that's the difference there. So this is a clusterfuck. Now, Disney pulled, not Star Wars, Lucasfilm, which has Star Wars, and Indiana Jones, which, I mean, Indiana Jones is the next thing they're going to fuck up. And oh boy, are there identity politics in that new film going to be going on overtime. But they had projections when they bought Lucasfilm. Mainly those projections were for Star Wars. They thought, wow, we've got Star Wars now. All we have to do is make any old shit and print a Star Wars name on it, and it's going to make lots of money in movie theatres. So after the Solo movie wasn't a flop, and the Solo movie isn't the worst film in the world, but nobody asked for a fucking Solo movie not starring Harrison Ford. Clearly, Harrison Ford didn't want to do an old man Logan kind of movie. I think they should have done that. But oops, they killed him off in The Force Awakens, so they couldn't do that. Basically, they had a really good idea in the Star Wars, a Star Wars story model. I thought it was a really good idea. Why didn't they do good standalone movies with, you know, competent directors like Rian Johnson, being able just to do, you know, it could be like What If on Disney Plus's, you know, that Marvel animated thing. What if this happened? They could have done that. That would have been a few interesting movies. But they could have done anything with the Star Wars stories. So none of it, you know, makes any sense. So, you know, instead of doing that, they said, right, we'll do Rogue One, which basically is a prequel to the Skywalker saga. Give me strength. And I always laugh about that film. Everyone says it's a great movie just because of the like hallway scene at the end with Darth Vader, which is a pretty neat scene. But again, we're just going back to the past. We're not creating anything new. It's very difficult with Star Wars. And I mean, if you're going to keep on going back to the past of Star Wars and not doing anything fresh, why didn't they just do a fucking Darth Vader movie? Because there's a lot of stuff from Vader when he's in his peak we haven't seen in live action. Oh, we've had Kenobi now. That's great, innit? They made Vader look like a fucking pussy. Welcome to Disney Star Wars. Anyway, so the money they should have made on Star Wars, they haven't made. Then, when they fucked up Star Wars in the movie theatre, they took it away from the medium it fucking created, basically, and took it to Disney Plus. Because it was, their idea is for Marvel and Star Wars to hold up Disney Plus, which it's doing, I suppose, quite well, but the money they're making, I don't know, I don't think it's that vast. But there's been problems with Disney Plus Marvel, hence, you know, Disney Plus Star Wars has been an unmitigated disaster. But I must say this, the idea to bring Jon Favreau in to do a few Star Wars bits and pieces has worked, because The Mandalorian is the best piece of Disney Star Wars ever. I mean, that's not saying much. That's like my matchstick, man. I can't get it because I chucked it on the other side of my bed, but it's like me saying that, you know, my picture is nearly, you know, it's like Picasso saying his drawings are better than mine. You know, there's you know, of course it fucking is, but there you have it. And so this film, The Last Jedi, isn't a director who loves Star Wars, who has this motivation to make a great Star Wars movie. It's all about political one-upmanship. So basically, all the talented people have been driven out of Hollywood and been replaced by political extremists. And there you have it, the story of Star Wars. George, why? Why did you sell your baby to these fucking bastards? And I mean, we've read Iger's books, sections of Iger's book, where he was manipulating Lucas for years, saying, you want your legacy to live on. The truth is, whoever he sold Star Wars to would have done the same shit. Maybe not just as bad. I mean, imagine selling Star Wars to Warner Brothers Pictures of Toby fucking Emmerich. Yeah, just imagine what that would have been. I mean, is there anyone who could have done anything with it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see what A24 do with Star Wars, but we won't go there anyway. So anyway, let's get into this Variety article where they interview Rian Johnson. So Rian Johnson is even more proud of The Last Jedi 5 years after Star Wars film released. Imagine the cojones on this fucking guy. I'm really proud of the piece of shit that most Star Wars fans hate, right? So this is interesting, because you get from these people, oh, it's the best Star Wars film ever. You get the critics saying it's amazing. But we know the people who love The Last Jedi are not hardcore Star Wars fans. That doesn't matter, but it proves that you don't get Star Wars if you think this movie is great. But before we start on this, one of the things I can never forget about, because for me, when I finished watching The Last Jedi in the cinema, I wasn't angry. I was just underwhelmed. I was like, because 2017 was a bad year for me. As a moviegoer, I went to see fucking Justice League. Heartbroken. This. Underwhelmed. It was just a horrible year of cinema. So anyway, we get to the ending on the Millennium Falcon. So finally, Finn and Rey are reunited, right? So again, you've got this really exciting multiracial relationship, right? And they're reunited. This is good. They're going to continue the love story. No, Rey gives Poe fuck me eyes. She literally gives Poe fuck me eyes. Oh, hi. Like, this is Finn going, hi, you know, I've had to really hang around with this fucking annoying bird called Rose Tico, right? By the way, I don't hate Rose Tico. I actually think she was an okay, sweet character in the film. I think she's a pointless character, and she's clearly only there for diversity, but I actually think the actress did a good job with it, and I don't know why she got all that hate on social media. If you want to channel frustration about the way that film went, you should channel it at the person who wrote and directed it, but you've got to be constructive. So when you go after an actress, especially an Asian actress, it makes you look bad. It pretty much identifies you as the way these people want to show you as a bigot. you give them a win. So people should never have gone after Kelly Marie Tran. She didn't do anything wrong. So absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, and so yeah, Ray gives Poe fuck me eyes. Now, this is interesting because people like Rian Johnson accuse everyone of being racists and bigots, people who don't like his film. Isn't it racist to take a character of colour and to make sure that he basically doesn't have any scenes with the white characters and has him hanging around with another Asian character? So, Rose Tico, an Asian character played by an Asian actress, and a character played by an actor of colour, literally weren't allowed to mix with the other white characters. Ryan, I don't know if you did this purposely or not, but that's what you did. Why has no critic or reviewer questioned you about that? Anyway, let's get back to this article. So Rian Johnson is so proud of his Matchstick Man. So, while The Last Jedi... Sorry about that, notifications. Right. While The Last Jedi achieved widespread critical acclaim. Oh, right, yeah, let's talk about Access Media for a minute, because this is so fucking funny. Because it doesn't matter if you give a film, widespread critical acclaim when you're part of an industry. Basically, Access Media have got the same DNA. Those journalists have got the same Hollywood DNA. It's all part of the mob. It's all part of the made men. The mob, in the journalistic side, using the word journalistic very loosely, are part of the marketing tool. The media and these outlets today are part of the marketing for Hollywood. They're all part of the same team. It's corrupt. So these people get to do the ratings for Rotten Tomatoes with their reviews. It's a stacked system, everyone. And then they've got the cheek to say it had widespread critical acclaim. What does that say to you as a journalist when you say a film that has Luke Skywalker sucking milk from a fucking nipple is a great movie? What does that say about you? That means I shouldn't listen to anything you say about a piece of entertainment anymore. The middle chapter of the Star Wars sequel trilogy proved to be very divisive among fans. Looking back at his go at the galactic franchise, writer-director Rian Johnson said he's even more proud of it 5 years on. In an interview with Empire, Johnson said, "When I was up at bat, I really swung at the ball." Yes, you took a bat and you basically destroyed Disney Star Wars. Because here's the thing, Ryan, you didn't destroy my childhood. You didn't destroy George Lucas's superior 6 movies. No, you didn't. All you did, you took something that could have been so great and you ruined it. And that's it. So you did take the back to it. That's what you wanted to do. And you did it. He continued, "I think it's impossible for any of us to approach Star Wars without thinking about it as a myth that we were raised with, and how that myth, that story, baked itself into us and affected us. The ultimate intent was not to strip away the intent, was to get to the basic, fundamental power of myth, and ultimately I hope the film is an affirmation of the power of the myth of Star Wars in our lives." No, Ryan, that's not what the film does for me anyway. Basically, he's not being honest. That's not what... He doesn't like Star Wars. He doesn't like myths and legends. That's the truth. The extreme left don't like escapism. They're obsessed with the real world. They're obsessed with the system. They are. At the end of The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, meets his death and becomes a symbol of hope against evil forces across the galaxy, according to Johnson. The final images of the movie, to me, are not deconstructing. But that's... You see, the modern day writer-director is obsessed with deconstruction. That's what Snyder is as well. They're all interested in deconstructing things, because we're in a really strange era now where the history of movies is full of talent and originality. And today's industry, I mean, how many times do you watch a film and you get the media saying, well, this Easter egg, that reference, this reference? All they do is reference stuff all the time. There's no originality and they're obsessed with the past. not deconstructing the myth of Luke Skywalker. They are building it, and him embracing it. They're him absolutely defying the notion of throw away the past and embracing what actually matters about his myth. Throw away the past, Ryan? You did that. And what's going to inspire the next generation? So for me, the process of stripping away is always in the interest of getting to something essential that really matters. What really matters about, let's talk about this as well, The Last Jedi. Because what it does, it says anyone can become a Jedi. We got that kind of bit in the end with the kid, right? Who seems to have powers. It's a bit like what Chris Chibnall did with Doctor Who. Oh my God, the Doctor's been too white all throughout the history. I know, timeless child. We can have the Doctor as his child who's been black, white, Indian, Asian. We fixed it, representation. That's not how good representation works, Chris Chibnall and Rian Johnson. Not anyone should be able to become a Jedi. If anyone could become a Jedi, nobody's unique, nobody's special, and basically, we don't have any heroes to look up to. That's the point. Johnson's next film, blah, 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 we don't care about that, and that's the end of that article. So, I'm sure everyone on social media is triggered by his words. He doesn't trigger me. I think the whole situation is fucking hilarious. We are in an era of Hollywood of creative bankruptcy. So, but while we're here and we're talking about Disney Star Wars, let's talk about the character of Rey. Now, a lot of Star Wars fans are not happy because she didn't have to be trained, she didn't earn the right to be able to do the things she did. Now, this is very interesting to me because if you want to do this, I mean, there shouldn't be an issue with her being a female hero. And I think Daisy Ridley did the best she could with it. But ultimately, she did better in the first film than she did in the second and third film. Actually, I'm a bit unfair. I think the third film she did pretty well, especially when she was going up against Palpatine. So the issue isn't with Daisy Ridley. Fans believed that she basically didn't earn the right to be able to do the things that she could. But Abrams and Johnson could have fixed that so easily. If we knew from the beginning, or at least the middle movie, why she didn't need that training, you know, it could have been done better and people could have accepted it. Personally, one of the things I never really had an issue with was Daisy Ridley or Rey as the hero of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. As I say, really, really liked her in the first movie, but at the end of the day, they dropped the ball. They dropped the ball purposely. Because this is what happens when you swap an industry full of talented people who care about entertainment and telling good stories with political extremists. And this is where this industry is at now. Look at the Rings of Power. Look at Marvel Phase 4. It's all there, everyone. But they want people to believe that we're only against current Hollywood and entertainment because we're isms, bigots, and racist, because we're bad people. No, that's not why. No one affiliated with the fandom menace or talks against the modern day industry has any problem with representation and inclusion. Unfortunately, there is no representation and inclusion in Hollywood. Where were all the Native Americans in Disney Star Wars, eh? Where are they? Let's not talk about hiding John Boyega, a black man, in the poster of one of these Star Wars sequel trilogies when they were marketing the film for China. Think about that for a minute as well. But these are the brave and powerful members of Hollywood. These are not good people, but they go onto Twitter posting about kindness and compassion. There isn't a kind bone in these people's bodies. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Nick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again on the next video. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.